Good morning, everybody. Happy Super Bowl Sunday. Although we're an Orthodox shul, so we did say Tachanan.
That's right.
Today we begin a journey, a challenging journey that we've been waiting for a while, to try to understand pieces of Navi about the extremely complex personality, King David. And I promised myself to do at least one verse about him, because even to take the first step, there is so much of an introduction, even to take the very, very first step. And I want a disclaimer, a double disclaimer, on my part, and maybe we'll ask on everybody's part. Number one, mostly for me, no rabbinical apologetics. Nobody likes that when there's a really good question about the Torah and a rabbi gives you an explanation, you're thinking, he's whitewashing it. No rabbinical apologetics. Okay, we're not going to do any of that. We are trying to find the MS, even if the MS hurts. And you should just know, over the weekend, I was researching a few different things. And the emes of the Torah sometimes does hurt. It hurts to figure it out. It hurts to know it. But it is there. And that's part of the greatness of the Jewish religion, is we don't hold anything back. We tell you the good, the bad, the ugly. We're not here to shoot at other religions, but we do know that many other religions, they try to cover up a lot of things. And eventually, 60 minutes, or somebody finds out, and then you say, what am I doing over here? That's one good thing about the Jewish religion. We don't really have, we're not supposed to, at least in the Torah, we don't have cover-ups. So that's number one. We want to try to avoid apologetics. We don't want to twist anything like that. As they say in Yiddish, we don't want any dray in a cup. We got enough dray in a cup as it is. Number two, we have to watch ourselves not to be judgmental, and I speak to myself. It's very, very easy to be judgmental, especially about someone who lived a long time ago, and you don't know. I'll just, as an aside, I have a very interesting thing. I've started giving talks at various senior citizen facilities about history, not necessarily Jewish. And two of the places they're plotting for me to speak about Dolly Madison and the burning of the White House in 1814. I'm not saying you should burn the White House. And how she saved George Washington's picture. And Dolly Madison, I don't know what you grew up with. I mean, Dolly Madison was a pretty respected first lady, and people like her for her ice cream and her Charlie Brown donuts and all those kind of things. But she's a pretty well-liked person. But would you believe, I found out the past few days, there are people who want to pick on her and judge her and take away from her heroics. I don't know if Mesirut Nefesh, dedication of soul, is the right word to use, but I'm just saying, in American lore, Dolly Madison is a pretty much revered person, but there are people who want to pick on her. They want to be judgmental about her. I don't know what it is. People, it bothers them. They have to do it. But, of course, King David we may not understand that he's a great man, but we know in our soul he's a great man, and we are related to him. So, and we do have to be careful, because I'm going to share with you so many baseline facts about him that, like, your brain may hurt. You may say, golly, you have all those facts, but the Torah says he did that good thing and that bad thing and that good thing and that bad thing. How do I even all that? It hurts my head. But that's okay. There was a great rabbi who, I think he taught together with the Chafetz Chaim. Rabbi Weissman will correct me if I'm wrong. His name was Rabbeinu Naftali Trop. Tropp. It's a nice name. It's a laning name, Trop. Rabbi Naftali Trop began developing migraine headaches. And there are lots of stories about rabbis that had that. Some rabbis get migraine headaches for different reasons. But he attributed to study. And when they examined Rabbi Naftali Trop, I'll guess it was either the 20s or the 30s, the doctors flipped out. They said, we've never seen a case like this. We heard about it in our college books, but you're the first living case. You don't have a regular migraine. You don't have a sinus headache. You have a brain ache. So the rabbi said, what do you mean? You think too much. I'm a rabbi, that's what I'm supposed to do. He goes, you don't understand. Science is proven, and you all know this. Brian knows it. David knows. Everybody knows that the average human being only uses a small percent of their brain. Now, you may have some people that you wonder that they even use 1%. Everybody has an opinion about that. But you do know science has proven over and over again that the average person does not use their full brain capacity. The doctor said, Rabbi Trump, you're not normal. You use too much of your brain. So, and it's not usual for a person to do that. So, you're getting a brain ache over here. Now, I don't know what in the world they did for him, but I don't know how they dealt with it. But he was known for very, very incisive, analytic, Talmudic study. Talk about thinking you know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. Rabbi Trump, no, I don't even think he lived 100 years ago. Any term in the Talmud, he would challenge it. What does this mean? What does that mean? You sure it means that? And he would start chopping it up into all the possibilities of things it could mean. And we have his Torah, and the Rabbi Weissbaum is certainly very familiar with it. It's like super duper analytical, and like it's beautiful, but you start to feel your head swirling around like an owl because he digs down in there asking, do we even understand the terms and the concepts we think we know? So I'm just trying to tell you, if from studying Torah you have some contradictions and you get a brain ache, it's good. So we'll get it together. I'll try not to give you too much of a headache. Okay, to be great in Torah and understanding any of the things over here, it's not just an academic exercise. To be great in it and to get true Havanah, true understanding, it's a whole different kind of approach. It just doesn't follow the regular rules. Rabbi Sheftel Neuberger, one of my rebbes, said, one of the biggest professors in Hopkins used to study Talmud. And the guy was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, not Jewish. And the guy did everything he could to prepare himself to study Talmud. And he would call up rabbis at the yeshiva for explanations of some of the simplest passages. And the guy knew the translation, and the guy was a super duper brain, but there was just something, like, he just didn't get it. As brilliant as he was, even though the man was brilliant in a number of different areas, Rabbi Neuberger said that, and he remembers personally, it's not third hand, there was just something about Talmudic learning that for some reason was going according to a different rule of beating drum. So there is such a thing like that, how you may be great in other areas, but Torah may not go. Now, of course, sometimes you can have the opposite. You could have people who are great in Torah that may be lacking in some other areas too. I'm not going to deny that. But we have to understand, though, that all the people I showed you, and none of these people lived that long ago over here, especially Rabbi Soloveitchik, Rabbi Kalevsky, not that long ago, but the hours and the time and the concentration, the lack of distraction that they had to have their greatness, not everybody has such a thing like that. Now, we mentioned the Super Bowl. Now, Harry Karp will be the last person to pick on the Super Bowl until my children went away in yeshiva. We watched that Super Bowl together without the commercials because we're nice Jewish people and we don't want to patch from our mommies and all that. And we studied during halftime and all that. And even after my sons went to yeshiva, we check each other, we stayed in touch. I love the Super Bowl. I love sports. The rabbi who brought me close to Torah, he and every single child in his family, boy and girl, were athletes. My Rebbe was really, really into sports. Big time. He would take out class time to discuss the Yankees and the Knicks. Okay? So I have no problem with it. You'll meet some people that get all nervous. They'll give you whole lectures, competition, a Jewish concept. They'll give you a whole thing about it. All right, but I'm staying away from that. But there's one thing, though. We do know that you're going to go to work tomorrow And there's people that are going to be obsessed. They can't, even though it's not the ravens or the skins, they can't take their mind off of it. There are people, I'll never forget this. I was on Citizens Patrol in Baltimore. Now, I hope you don't need that in Annapolis. You need that. Citizens Patrol to go around and help the cops.
Certain neighborhoods.
Some neighborhoods.
2 years ago, there's the patrol. 2 years ago, I was on patrol. I was listening to the radio of Ravens playoff game. I drove down Ford's Lane, which is near Elliot's favorite shul, right? Yeah.
Down Ford's Lane.
Guys, I heard a blood-curdling scream like you never heard. And I heard the watch commander come on, we have a murder, 3045, Ford's Lane. And I'm not making this up. I got on the walkie-talkie, I said, excuse me. I'm listening to the game, the Ravens just won, I am 1 block from there. The person is screaming, and they're screaming, go Ravens. It's not a murder. So the head guy, David Cohn, said, oh, no, but I think we better send someone to check it out. I said, David, I'm here. They just finished the quarter. So they're arguing, and he says, well, listen, the next 2 calls will check if it's a murder, and then after that, all screams will assume for the Ravens. I'm not making this up. This is exactly. So you should know the scream that I heard. You really thought the lady's husband was, doing a job on her. That's what you really thought. So I'm just trying to say, we do live in a culture where we know some of the most mature people are going to get really obsessed, really carried away. Some of them are going to get angry. So you have to ask yourself, how great in Torah can you become if that's all around you with such distractions? Now, the greatest rabbis, going back to the Baal Tanya, they speak about the importance of hobbies and relaxation. Well, you all know very well, there's hobbies and relaxation, and there's obsession and getting carried away. It's very hard to become great in Torah if you have too many distractions. Fun is one thing, but so you just have to appreciate that a lot of the great people that we introduced, not even getting near Rashi, the Rabag, the Radak, or any of these people, they had a very dedicated life with very intense Torah study. They did what they had to do, and they knew how to have a good time, whatever they did back then. And that's evident from the writings. Even people in the Gemara, you find them joking around, and they had their fun things. There's even several Gemaras that talks about a certain great rabbi's favorite kind of chicken. They have that. They're people, they bleed. But still, though, to become truly great in Torah, with there being too much fun, it's a very, very hard thing. It's a very, very hard thing to do. The Shach, not Rabbi Shach from Panovich, the Rabbi Shach who wrote the essential commentary, the Shulchan Aruch, some of the hardest and some of the most beautiful commentaries. He lived in the 1600s. So when you read it, you get the picture, he must have been sitting in this gorgeous office in Poland with his feet up and a big pipe writing over there. He must have 10 secretaries. So the truth is, we call him the Shach. His name is Rabbi Shabsi Cohen. He wrote his great works during the time when the Cossacks were running around killing and murdering people, and he was moving from place to place, and he had a missing daughter that he didn't know where she was, and his daughter gone, wife gone, an absolutely miserable life, like you can't imagine. Wow! And that's when he wrote this great book. I'm just trying to point out, most of our great people, they were under excruciating, tough situations that somehow made them even greater. Now, we're not cursing anybody. Even Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, some of Rabbi Feinstein's best material was written when he was under scrutiny from the communists in terror, hiding from them, and the man became a great man. I'm not cursing anybody. I'm just saying, to be great in Torah, sometimes there are other ingredients. Now, the personalities in the Torah lived a while ago. We're related to them, and of course you're going to say to yourself, listen, if I would find a piece of history about my uncle, my bubby is 80, so you say, I'm not going to be so quick to judge them because it is my relative, it is my bubby is 80, it's my uncle, I'm going to have questions, I'm going to research, but I'm going to have a certain amount of respect. And I didn't actually know them face to face, so I'm going to research, but I'm going to be careful. And we got to remember that's the personalities in the Torah. And we also have to remember if God shows certain personalities to be in the Torah, there's got to be some kind of message from me. And I just don't want to trash everybody. Now, the question is, so where do we fit in all this? So let's say Bruce really did want to educate us on something in science. So maybe Bruce could take us to the laboratory, give us some classes, do some experiments hands-on, show us things, so you'd feel like you have a little bit of a yad on it. When it comes to figuring out the people in the Torah, what they're all about, you can try, but you just can't do that. There's just no way to do it. Bruce has not invented the time machine yet. He's working on it with you, but he just hasn't had the time machine yet. So really, we are at a very great distance, and we're trying to get a window. How do we get the window without a time machine, without the understanding? We have the commentaries. So the truth of the matter is, the English word commentaries is one of the worst words I could possibly use. Rabbi Hirsch, of blessed memory, says, there's a lot of words we use because we don't have a better word, but they're really lousy words. Rabbi Hirsch says, the statement, I practice the Jewish religion. Rabbi Hirsch says, that's really inappropriate. Yeah, right, so about it. He says that's really inappropriate. Because you're saying, I can go to the ice cream store and I can buy chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, pistachio, tutti frutti. And I can go to the religion store and there's Jewish and there's Christian and there's Muslim and there's Hindu and there's Shinto and all this kind of stuff. A bunch of choices like ice cream. Rabbi Hirsch says he really wishes there was a better way to say it rather than Jewish religion. It sounds like too much on an equal stand. In the world it's nice to talk that way, but among ourselves, Rabbi Hirsch says he wishes there was a better word. Rabbi Hirsch is not thrilled with the word symbol. He thinks it's a cop-out on the whole Jewish religion, because people keep using the word symbol, and you know what that means, my friends? Nothing's really important, because if everything is just a symbol, today I use an esrog, tomorrow I use a football. So Rabbi Hirsch, even though he uses the word symbol, or however you say it in Deutsch, he's worried about that. He's really worried about that. So the truth of the matter is the word commentary is really not the right word. Because commentary sounds like, okay, Rashi says this, the Rambam says this, the Radak says this, Woody Allen says this, Harry Karp says this, Charles Krauthammer says that, right? And Charles Schultz says this, and he's probably right because he invented Charlie Brown. Whatever it is though. In Hebrew, the word is meforshim. Meforshim is not commentaries. Do you agree, Rabbi Weissblum? Meforshim is not really commentaries. It's not. Meforesh can mean explain. It also can mean lifros, to spread out. We're dealing with people. Now, to appreciate Rashi, the Rabbi, the Radak, anybody that helps us, let alone the rabbis and the Talmud, you'd have to really spend a lot of time studying who these people were. You can't even begin to appreciate unless you find out what they went through, where they studied, the kind of studying, and then maybe we can have a little appreciation that when Rashi says something, or the Rambam says something that I don't like, I may think, well, you know what, maybe I don't, maybe I'll work at this, maybe I'll ask my friends, but I don't want to trash it too fast. What Rashi and friends are doing with David and Malach, or whoever it is they're trying to give us a window. They're trying to give us a window. They were from a different time, a different education, different abilities. I'm not getting into who has a higher IQ. That's not even important. Because we know, gentlemen, many times in history, the smartest people were not the wisest and they weren't the best. And we don't want to get into. History has proven several times that the most sophisticated society is not the wisest or the best society. We've learned that the hard way, and we're still learning it. But we have to let Rashi and friends give us the best window they can give us with whatever resources they had, whatever resources the rabbis and the Talmud had, just to try to get a little inkling of what it's all about. So I want to share with you something from Rabbi Teitz and a disability that I have and we all have, and I want to give you one pasuk. Well, no, I would like to try to get near that pasuk, but all right, I have to do it in pieces. In New Jersey, in Elizabeth, New Jersey, there was a great rabbi, Rabbi Pinchas Teitz. Rabbi Pinchas Teitz. If when you were a little bit younger, you ever ate chicken from Vineland, New Jersey, that was probably his hashgacha. The great Rabbi Pinchas Teitz. His son is I think the chief rabbi, if they can say that, in Elizabeth, New Jersey now. Great man, great man. So he asked this question. And it's not easy to swallow, but the more you meet people, the more you understand it. It says in Pirkei Avos, Baruch Shebachar Bohem Uva Mishnasam. And we know that means Baruch, blessed, Shebachar Bohem, he who chooses them, Uva Mishnasam, and their teachings. It's there, you can look it up, it's in Pirkei Avos, no secrets. That's it. Baruch Shehu Mishnasam. Blessed is he who chooses them and their teaching. Ask Rabbi Teitz and the whole world, what kind of sentence is that? Get rid of that word bohem. Just right. Blessed is he who chooses their teachings. What do I need the bohem for? What's the message over there? So Rabbi Teitz said, and there's many, many other people speak about it too. He says you have to understand something. If you want to learn any subject in the world, whatever you want, neuroscience, whatever you like, does it really make a difference what the person does in their house? If the person can explain the subject well, and they have patience for you, and he goes home and beats up his mother and kicks his cat and suffocates his goldfish, it's unfortunate, but it really doesn't make a difference. I need to learn the subject matter, how to fix an air conditioner, whatever it is. Doesn't really make a difference what the guy does in his personal life. It really doesn't. I'm going to learn it. As long as he explains it well. Rabbi Teitz says, by Torah, it does not work that way. If you would find a person that seems to know a lot, but in their life they're an immoral person that doesn't give a hoot about Torah, and you want to learn Torah from them, that Torah is going to be messed up. There's going to be something messed up because Torah does not follow the regular rules. It just doesn't. And there were plenty of people in history that fit both definitions that he's talking about. And he says that's why the Mishnah says, Bohem, the people you learn Torah from, your mentors, make sure that they're a vessel. They're a good person. They're a good Torah person, because Torah is not just some more information flying off another page of the computer. So let me speak about my disability, and then we can start to scratch David and Melech a little bit. And it's not going to be easy, and there are going to be problems, and there are times you're going to say, well, that just doesn't make sense. God, it's your fault. Explain it to me. He might. Let me tell you our disability. My disability. We are the quick generation. We want everything fast. We want everything now. And we think, as I mentioned before, that anything I want to know, I can go on Wikipedia, and we all know very well how reliable that is.
Well, actually, I just got an email from Checkpoint saying that there's a severe vulnerability in Wikipedia, so don't go to Wikipedia. It will affect publishing. No,
Okay.
serious, I just got that email.
So, whatever you want to research. So you go through some sites. So we are developing a mentality, which our parents probably wouldn't approve of, that I'll Google a few sites. You don't know who it is, where it came from, how they did the research, and already, I know. Ich bin an expert. Whatever it is in the whole world, because I can Google it. This is a mentality that none of us grew up with. Our children and grandchildren, our nieces and nephews are growing up with it. but it's a different kind of a thing, thinking that you know so much because you're going to go online and sign an expert. And I sure hope our doctors don't start doing things that way, or we're going to be in another trouble. So this is a disability that we have, that when we encounter something that bothers us, well, we figures, I can find things out real quick, I'm going to Google it, I'll look over 20 sites, and that's it. I know I'm an expert, and that's it, and finished. That is a disability. I have that disability. The whole generation has that disability, which doesn't allow us to think straight or think respectfully. That's number one. Number two, which may be even worse, and you can't hide from it, we can't think straight. We cannot. We analyze everything that we see and hear through movies and books and media that we've read. It's not all bad, but whether you realize it or not, I mean, if you could step out of yourself for a minute and sometimes hear some of the things any of us say, and I include myself big time, I would say, like, Harry, what are you comparing that to Gone with the Wind? That's the Gemara in Baba Kama. And I know I do it, because my wife tells me I do it. But it's a disability that we can't get away from. It's not all bad, but anything we see, we analyze it, maybe like Agatha Christie, maybe like Edgar Allan Poe, maybe like Shakespeare, but it's unavoidable that we cannot think clear about almost anything. It's very, very hard because we're jaded. I'm not insulting you. I mean, this is what it is. Think about it. There are times where you'll catch yourself and you'll say, like, you know, like, why am I acting like a horror movie? Like, where's my head? What do I think I'm Spider-Man or Superman? People don't realize it, but they do it. So to clean your head out, to look at something totally unbiased and unprejudiced without and we're bombarded. Even if you don't watch TV, you know, you still, so there's things in your face. Rabbi Fran Shlita says that it's more difficult than ever because you could have a person, he doesn't watch TV, and I'm not recommending this. He doesn't watch TV. He doesn't listen to the radio. Rabbi Fran said you walk down the street, the billboard and the publications are bombarding us, making things acceptable that nobody dreamed would ever be acceptable, and if you keep getting hit by it, it's got to affect your thought process. So we just got to remember that whenever we're trying to explore something for the truth, we do have that disability. You don't want to be ostrich in a hole, but you just have to realize that sometimes if there's something I don't understand, I'll give you a quick example. I don't want to take too long. I think most people like Alan Alda. Alan Alda from MASH. Most people like Hawkeye Pierce. Some people like Alan Alda. Alan Alda made a movie one time. I think it was called Same Time Next Year. What was it about? It was about two happily married people who knew each other from way back, and once a year they would meet together for one night in the same log cabin in the woods and have an affair. And if you watch the movie, and you watch the whole thing, they go through their whole life, you may catch yourself, as my wife and I did who were watching it, you might say, oh, that's so nice. They're maintaining their puppy love, and they're not hurting anybody. Mm-hmm. So for a second, and you know the power of media and drama and a good actor, actress, you watch it, and there was a line there when Alan Alda gives the girl a hug, and they're old already, and he says, wait, a little bit like Jewish, may we merit to meet every year and hug each other into old age till our bones crumble. So it sounds almost prophetic and biblical. So you vision a movie, you say, that was a great movie, really beautiful about love. And then you say, what am I, out of my freaking mind? Guy's screwing around, what the heck is this? What's wrong with me? And I remember, you can disagree, but I watched you, at least two of you saw that movie. But I remember my wife and I saw the movie, so the first reaction is, love! And then you go, what the heck is wrong with me? This is terrible. This is terrible. This is adultery. Like, what the heck is this? But what happens? It was a well-done movie with two great actors, and as they say in Jewish, zez vakishift. It magicked you into the magic in the meeting. You realize afterwards, what the heck is wrong with me? What am I doing to myself? So just be aware. This applies to all things other than Torah also. And I have this disability, because believe me, I grew up with a lot of TV and movies. So we just have to remember that in whatever we're trying to analyze and ask ourselves, are we thinking clear? Okay, so let me give you two things, and then we'll take a little nibble at one pasuk about David. Oh my gosh, all this to get to one verse. All right, but most of the time we'll be more textual. My friend Reverend Ira Zeidman, for many, many years, was the gabbai in a beautiful synagogue called Beth Jacob in Baltimore. Doesn't exist anymore. But when you go to Beth Phila, the gorgeous golden doors in the hall, that's from Beth Jacob. I got married there. And the man who married me was this man. So he should rest in peace. So Ira said, when someone approaches King David, the first thing they have to start with is you have to appreciate Ruth, who your rabbi's an expert in. He says, whatever, my friend Ira Yitzchak Zaidman, whatever you're going to approach with David, just remember who his grandmother was. We got a book about her. The rabbi wrote the best book. Ruth was a woman that came from great dignity from the non-Jewish world of Moab. She threw it all away because there was something about being Jewish that burned inside of her. Whatever study you do about Ruth is less controversial than her grandson. There was a controversy if such converts should be accepted. That's a separate thing with Moab and whatever. But whatever it is, there is something about that woman. There was a burning passion for Judaism that woman had that no one's going to take away from her. So Ira just reminded me, any looking at King David. Now, he's not exactly his grandmother, and she was a great grandmother, but Ira just said, just keep in the back of your mind that Ruth is the great grandmother of Mashiach, and that's the stock that David comes from. So put that on David's quality list. But the things that we really need to know, maybe I'll mention a different one each time, is this. David, with all his complexities, there's a Gemara that nobody argues about. So we're going to work backwards. Gemara says, when the time will come in Olam Haba, when there will be the great feast, whatever that means, the feast of the Leviathan, whatever that means, Hashem is going to ask the great people, somebody lead benching. Someone lead benching. And they don't go for a kite. And everybody gets disqualified. Our forefather Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe. The Gemara goes down the line, and everybody has a particular imperfection, maybe not exactly an Aveira, that they get disqualified from leading the great benching at the great feast. Who gets elected? David. And you look at that Gemara and you say, David! What? He did a lot more things to get in trouble than Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, whoever you want. He got elected? What? Like you look at that Gemara and he's not challenged or anything. He gets to lead the benching. There's a lot of questions on that Gemara. But a person says, well, I don't totally understand the Gemara, but there must be something about this fellow. If he gets to lead it, there must be something about this fellow that I gotta find out. There must be something about him. Whether I understand him or not, I gotta try to understand him. If he's the one that God's having to do the benching there must be something to this fellow that I gotta try to figure out as best I can. Number two, there's a Zohar that's almost more frightening. There's a Zohar that discusses God's throne. And it talks about the pillar key people around God's throne. And the Zohar, the Kabbalah, puts David there with Abram, Isaac, and Jacob, almost like he's a patriarch. And you look at that Zohar and say, David? But those other people I can understand. That's my zany. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Their mistakes are better than my mitzvahs. What's David doing there? But the Zohar's there. The Zohar puts him there with no bones about it. So you say, gee, this is really, really strange. There must be something I'm missing. There must be something about him that I got to figure out, because I really don't understand that Gemara. I don't understand that Zohar. And there's 10, 20 other places like that. I'm just working backwards just for someone to have this on my mind, to set a goal that I want to try to figure this man out. So let's give you just one pasuk. One word, they make a big deal out of it. So the first time David shows up in the Navi, this is share this one pasuk with you. It is in Shmuel Aleph, Samuel 1, Perek Tez Zayin, that's 16. Vayomer Hashem. So here it is. It's Samuel 1, chapter 16. Go ahead and look it up if you wish. Vayomer Hashem El Shmuel. Everybody knows what that means. God says to Shmuel, Ad Mosai, until when? Ata misavel el shul. Until when will you be in mourning? Avel is a language of Avelis. Until when will you be in mourning and be upset that King Shaul didn't work out the way you hoped? Enough already. Va'ani me'astiv. Now, I promise no apologies. I promise no whitewashing. So ma'astiv in any proper translation means, I, God, am disgusted with Shaul. It means that. There's no question. That's what it means. You look it up. That's what it means. If someone doesn't say disgusted, they're whitewashing it, because that's what it means. Now, I'm not totally disgusted with him, but Mimaloch al Yisrael, I'm disgusted with Shaul from ruling over the Jewish people. Samuel, Male Karnacha Shemen. Fill up your horn with oil, because that was the way they used to do it to anoint someone, anoint a leader. V'leich, and go. Eshlochacha al Yishai beis halachmi. I am sending you to Yishai, says in English Jesse. Call him whoever you want. Ki ro'isi b'vanav, because I, God, see in his children li melech, a king for me. So you would be amazed how busy everybody gets over that language. God tells Shmuel Hanavi, who, according to everybody, in a certain facet, was greater than either Moses or Aaron from a certain viewpoint. Tremendous person. Didn't live too long, lived to be 52. But God tells him, go over there to Beis Lechem, to Yishai, because I, God, see in his children, Li Melech, a king for me. And the Meforshim go to town trying to give us an understanding of when God says, I see a king for me. It almost sounds like a little child, I was a little child, an excited person, open the refrigerator, and there's one eclair for me. But the way the Meforshim explain Hashem's statement, one of those sons will be a king for me, it starts to give an insight of what David is all about, which will help us understand and not understand at the same time. But just to throw a little bit of drama in, I'll send you off with this. David did not have a happy childhood. That's a fact. Now, this is either going to help us or famish us. Or those are psychologists, you're going to have a whole theory and you share what you want. But it is clear from the Meforshim, he did not have the happiest childhood. 2 reasons. He was looked down on as that little redhead, and I'm not exaggerating. There was this thing, I don't know if it spoke nasty to him, there was a condescending attitude, and even though his father, Jesse Yishai, was supposed to be a very righteous person, which there's also questions on, but whatever it is, there was a condescending feeling in that family towards David. And if that wasn't enough, for a while there was a noticeable distance between his father Yishai and his mother Nitzevet. I'm not saying there was a bunch of fighting and screaming and yelling, but there was a noticeable distance between the father and the mother. And this is what David is growing up with. So now we're all good and confused, and Hashem should help us to try to understand this man somewhat and understand why he's getting these great positions. Enjoy the rest of the day and stay tuned.